Hello, friends. Thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. And Nico, if you don't make Brad an all-star, I will beat you up.
The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we're going to answer a bunch of listener questions. We will preview the Seattle Sounders match and we'll cover what little Austin FC news there is to cover. My name is Landon Cottom and I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley and I'm happy to be here with you sharing this moment. I was happy to be with you packing up a lot of Patreon stuff on Sunday along with Jackson Bentley. And it really, I kind of love the reaction we've gotten to that, and largely the reaction we've gotten to the hot sauce. Because when we talked about maybe we should or shouldn't have a Moon Tower Soccer branded hot sauce, you were very insistent that like if we were going to do it, it should be hot sauce that is good, that people like. And as far as I know so far, it's like 5 stars out of 5 stars. Like everybody's putting it on everything they eat for breakfast, and they're very happy to have it.
Yeah, reviews have been rave so far. So I'm glad to know that my taste passed the test, and I wasn't the only one who thought it was good before, because I still don't think you've actually gotten it yet. But yeah, everyone who's reached out and sent us pictures has been really happy with it. And going through and packing all that stuff, this is one thing that I wanted to mention on the show is reading the name. Like we had kind of an assembly line going, and one of my jobs that day was putting the actual shipping labels onto the boxes. And I was reading the names, and it was like a really nice little exercise of just like reading each name as I put that label on there. And just like, I don't know, it just like a really like a practice of gratitude and like kind of thanking each one of you as I put that label on there. So thank you all so much for your support. I know we say that all the time, but we genuinely do mean it. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about this whole Austin FC experience that I've always like thought is super cool is I would see people who are like fans in the stands or at rallies or whatever for other clubs and not like know them as people, but like now everybody that we packed a label for was like a friend, right? Like it was somebody we know. That's a very different experience.
Yeah, most of them are. And then the ones that we don't know, I'm like, I know your name because you've been supporting us for a long time, or you've been supporting us for a short time, and I remember you popping up. But yeah, so for the friends that we do know and for the folks that we don't know, like again, we say this all the time. If you see us out in the wild at a stadium, wherever, I've been getting, like I've said on the show, I've been getting clocked a lot more often now that I have the green hair. But please come say hi. Like we want to thank you in person. We want to put a face to the name. So yeah, again, it really means a lot to us. I still haven't gotten the $5 level in the mail yet. I do have my nieces staying with me right now, as you heard on the intro. Jeremiah hasn't heard this yet, but got the little one, Carter, to do the intro for me again and threaten Nico Estevez a little bit. But I will try to get those done very soon in the next couple of days and get them all in the mail so you can be getting your beautiful bandanas, because we've had the bandanas for a bit now, and looking at those again, that was it's like, oh, these are beautiful. Like these are really, really nice. And I can't wait for people to get these in their hands. But having the nieces here has been quite the experience. Parents, God bless you all for doing this all day, every day with your lives. It's been a lot of fun, but it's been a lot of work too. So we've just been kind of taking them around town. We took them all out to my soccer game the other day, and another fun little moment happened where I think all these really nice new stadiums are like, I love going to Q2. It's a beautiful stadium, great atmosphere, great experience every time I go there. But one thing that these nice new modern experiences robbed us of is one of the most magical moments in soccer, which is a random dog running onto the field every once in a while that lower leagues in the US and some other countries still get to experience every once in a while. And so my wife had the 3 nieces and the dog out there, and she said that the dog just took off all of a sudden. And I'm guessing, I play center back on my team. I'm yelling at people a lot, telling people to step, to shift, to do whatever. And I'm guessing he heard my voice and said, oh, that's my dad. I'm going to go say hi.
Time to go.
Ran out onto the field, and it was adorable. But I did have to go catch him and send him back to my wife. But that was a fun little soccer moment this weekend, too.
Well, then last week you had a moment where you did a little podcast event at the Apple campus. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was really nice. So this was put on by PRX and KUT and Apple Podcasts. Thanks to all the folks who came out to see the event. Some folks I know, and then met some new folks as well. But yeah, the Apple folks were great. It was great to see some of the KUT folks I know and meet some new ones that I didn't know before. And then got to have some really cool conversations afterwards too, which was great. But one moment I thought was pretty funny was the moderator was a guy named Patrick who works for Apple Podcasts, and I believe he's in their New York office. But he just did some kind of quick fire icebreakers, and one of the first ones was that he asked the three of us that were on the panel was, when there's a movie made about your podcast, who will play you? And I'm like, Patrick, you don't know my brand at all, do you? It's like, this is the kind of nonsense question I don't prepare for and don't have any interest in answering. And so I panicked, and I wish I would have had a clever answer or a good answer, but I didn't. And I panicked and said one of the Chris's. I don't remember which one now. And it's not because I think I even look like him. I was just trying to think of someone famous and handsome. But listeners, if you have an idea of who would play me and Jeremiah in a movie, please reach out and let us know, because I don't really know that many modern actors, and don't have a mind to think creatively about things like this. Do you have a quick answer, Jeremiah, for who would play you?
I don't. No, man, I don't. And I feel like this is probably an ego bruising exercise, I think, for both of us, about like who might play us and who we think we are and who we actually probably are. So yeah, I would like to know what the listeners think about it and just like let it go. Let it go from there.
I think we could get Walton Goggins as Jeremiah Bentley, but we'd probably need to shift his hairline forward a few
Thank God.
inches.
Yeah. Thought you were gonna say like back. I'm like, no.
Okay, should we get on to the show?
Yeah, let's get on to the show and let's start. This is the week where we don't really have a story of the week from the game before, because we didn't have a game before. And I know that Landon, you had the opportunity to participate in the like MLS All-Star game media meetup thing. So why don't you like start with some highlights from that?
Yeah, this was just a quick briefing to kind of let people who are going to be applying for media credentials, just to know, like, here's all what's happening. Here's when this is going to happen. Here's what all's going on that week. And the answer is a lot. There's like quite a bit going on that week. There's going to be the MLS Next All-Star game at Palmer Field on Monday, the Skills Challenge Tuesday, and then the All-Star game Wednesday. But there's several other media happenings on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I believe, where there's going to be players, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm hoping I can make it to quite a bit of it. I don't know if I'll be able to do all of it, but it is going to be a cool thing just to have the league's eyes on the city and have all these players here, both from the MLS side and the Liga MX side.
And do you have any like sense of what the media side of that looks like? Like, I feel like everybody, as much as there is a national soccer media, like everybody's going to be here, and we know Soccer Wise is going to be here, but like, do you have an idea of who else we might happen to run into during that week?
I mean, I would guess all of the like MLS 360 crew will be around. I would guess all of the like former Extra Time dudes would be here that still work for the league. And so still a lot of like MLS employee heavy, but I would guess like anybody who covers this league full time will be here. Aside from that, I'm curious if there's going to be any of like the local folks who do cover their teams full time. So like, I know Seattle has a really healthy little media landscape. Atlanta has one. I'm curious if folks like that would make the trip. I would guess not many. So it's probably going to be like the top of the top national media people, and then the very local Austin people. And that's going to be most of it, probably.
Well, yeah, I think that's gonna be a fun week. I think people should, if they can, take advantage of that. I think that the skills challenge is always fun on TV and probably will be in person too. I mean, it's just to see how the turnout is, and how people show up, and like being in Texas, like how many people are cheering for cheering for the local side. But it should be fun, and that was not the only thing going on at Q2 this week.
Oh,
So
wait. One more thing about the
Go
All-Star
ahead.
game before we move on.
Yeah,
The roster is going to be revealed this week, I believe on Wednesday. And so I kind of wanted to make one more half prediction. I know we've talked about like, okay, which Austin players do we think would get put on? As the media briefing started today, the first image that pops up is 3 players, and I can't remember who the third one was, but it was Denny Bouanga, somebody else, and then Brandon Vasquez. His face was real big on this graphic. And I imagine that graphic was made long ago, before any of this voting even started. But it did get me thinking that if the league has any hand or thumb on the scale of like who Nico is going to pick from his own team, I would imagine they would want Brandon Vasquez there because he's a name in MLS and Liga MX because he played there. Just from a spectacle and marketing perspective, brand recognition perspective, if Nico's saying like, oh, well, Osman Bukhari's had a really good season, I'd like to pick him, I could see an MLS exec getting in his ear and saying, well, if you're only going to pick X number of Austin players, we'd rather you pick Brandon.
where you pick Brandon.
him.
Yeah.
So who knows if that will actually happen, but I could see that being a reality.
Yeah, I can see that too. And I think that, I mean, he could be a good fit, right? Like I think that he's the leading goal scorer in Austin, and like sort of some of the lack of him not scoring as much as one would hope is sort of the people around him. So I could see him being like a good fit in an All-Star game where it's just like a bunch of dudes showing their skills as best possible. Like he's got a lot of skills that translate to every game.
Yeah, and he probably hasn't earned the spot with his performance this year, but there's always guys on that team who haven't earned their spot just because they're more famous than the rest of them, so whatever.
It's an all-star game. That happens in every sport. Okay,
Yeah.
So one thing I was telling you before we started was that we know the U.S. played Saudi Arabia at Q2 on June 19th, and I just watched it from home, and Jackson Bentley kind of came through at some point, and he's like, what's going on at this stadium? It's mostly empty. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, wait, I recognize that stadium. It's mostly empty. And it's Q2 Stadium. But Austin, U.S. did end up winning. Did you pick up on any of this match?
I did not watch it. We've had a lot going on the last week, but also there's been a time when U.S. soccer was appointment viewing to me. And as I've tried to claw back some of my other hobbies and interests from soccer over the last few years, there's some things that have kind of fallen by the wayside. And a Gold Cup match versus Saudi Arabia where there's like 10 MLS dudes starting on the team, who most of which will probably not even be on the World Cup squad, that doesn't necessarily make it up to appointment viewing. So I didn't watch this game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. Because if it was Pulisic and McKinney and Wea and all the, Yunus Musa and all the guys who aren't on this team for a variety of reasons, like just not wanting to play or at the Club World Cup or an injury, like if they were all on this team, like maybe I go watch it. I kind of have a problem with Saudi Arabia just generally being in CONCACAF and playing. But yeah, the caliber of play from the U.S. side definitely made a difference in terms of whether I wanted to go watch it or not. I think we talked about this before too. Just the heavy soccer in May also contributed to that a little bit. Like maybe I needed to take a week away. And I'm very like,
absolutely.
I have some friends who love the USMNT and went and had a great time, and I'm very happy for them. But like for me, sort of the heavy game load made me less interested on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take that many nights out of a week or a month to be there. And so we finally felt like we got a break now. And it's hard to get motivated to get up there again, especially when the cheapest ticket in the stadium is $92 before fees for a game that clearly nobody wanted to go to for that much money. So I think that's a big problem as well. Like if the tickets were cheaper, I'm sure there would have been a lot more people there, but whatever formula US Soccer and or CONCACAF is using to set these prices is clearly selected to maximize profit and not interest or attendance.
Yeah, it's a dang algorithm, man. It's always the algorithm. All right, well, let's take a break. And then I just read through the listener questions a couple hours ago. There's a lot of really good ones that we're going to get to. Again, spanning from the insightful and deep to the silly and stupid. So, like, hang around through this break and we'll be happy to get into them.
Yeah, hang tight. We'll be right back.
When no one is around.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FBF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FBF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. You can check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FBF.law to find out what makes FBF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FBF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been home of fee-free rankings since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balances. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. And Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you once again by Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden, serving New York-style pizza and authentic Italian. Now open in Kyle at Kohler's Crossing, in Round Rock in front of Del Diamond, and on Anderson Lane near Shoal Creek Boulevard. Tony C's is Austin-owned and operated. The Anderson Lane Beer Garden is just 2 miles from Q2 Stadium. Stop by for pizza and a pint before all this year's home games, and with TVs on every wall, it's the perfect spot to watch all away games.
And we did exactly one of these things last Austin FC home game, where we brought a pack of kids. We stopped by before the match, had a pint, had several pizzas. They're really good. The one I would recommend is the vegetable pizza. I mean, they're all good. But one of the things I love about like a actual good vegetable pizza is when the ingredients are like fresh cut and actually taste like the things they were from and not just overwhelmed by like cheese and sauce flavor. And I feel like that was like a really standout in terms of what we got with Jackson and the boys before the last match.
Yeah, we had a great time. Food was good. The tap list also quite impressive. Lots of not just local beers, but really good local beers. Like some of my favorites on that list, some ones that you don't see at everywhere. So if you're a local beer snob, also a good selection there. This month's pizza of the month is the Quattro Formaggi, which is pizza sauce, mozzarella, fontina, gorgonzola, and parmesan. And then remember that they have 2 for Tuesday, which is 2 pizzas for the price of 1 every Tuesday. And then Pitcher Perfect Thursday, which is half-priced pitchers of beer every Thursday.
We should get a pitcher of beer, especially since Jackson was driving me. I don't know what your situation was. You can check them out online at www.tonycsbeergarden.com.
All right, we are back. As we said in the first segment, we are going to spend most of the show on listener questions, and these are from our wonderful Patreon members. So thank you all for supporting us, and thank you for sending us these great questions. Jeremiah, where should we start?
Let's start with the league stuff. Do you know how to pronounce this name? Sorry, before I get into it.
Oh,
Jerome?
well, okay. I met this listener at Hop Squad it was New Year's Day. He came out to the New Year's Day thing, I think.
Okay.
And he told me how to pronounce his name. I think it's Jeroen, but Jeroen Naus, please reach out and let me know if I messed that up. But I think that's right.
Okay, regardless of that, very happy to have this question because it's a good one. In the future, where there are way more teams, could MLS just split the league vertically and have promotion relegation, but still maintain value for owners, since the bottom league wouldn't have relegation in a way? Is that kind of what the playoffs are?
Yes and no. I think if they do ever move to a pro rel system, that it would be something like this, where there is a firm bottom that you can't just keep dropping and dropping. But even in this model, I have a hard time seeing the owners going for this. Maybe some market forces push them in this direction. One of them being USL recently, to saying that in the next few years, they are going to implement pro rel into their system and have movement between the levels. Maybe MLS does get pushed in this direction sometime, but even if there is a bottom to how much their value drops, it will still drop. If they go to the second division, they will be viewed as a second division team. And I am willing to bet that viewership will drop off, attendance will drop off, and they will lose profits. Or even some of these teams who maybe aren't even making true profits right now, they're going to make even less than they were before. So I think if it happens, this is how it will happen, but I still think it might not happen.
I think it probably won't happen. Yeah, but I do think your point is right. I think it's more likely if it's a closed pro rel system in a way, but American exceptionalism is always going to be an issue for like this kind of system. So I would not hold out hope for that. And one of the things that international soccer fans love is this kind of opportunity. And one of the things that like American owners hate is that. So like, I feel like the trend is probably, as wealth accumulates, more in the Western environment with like in the US and England, I feel like the move is probably away from pro rel, not toward more leagues doing that. Just it's a reality of the capitalist society.
Yeah. It would be a lot of fun, but yeah, not holding my breath. What else we got?
All right, let's go. Yeah, let's go to the next question. Does River Plate use Driussi in a way we never did? From the lineup, it looks like he's playing as a center forward. So for those that haven't, for normal people who don't follow all the careers of ex-players, like Sebastian Driussi's off to a pretty good start back in River. You can attribute that to many things, situation, the fact that he's actually happy and not moody. But like, what do you think about the system question?
Yeah, so I've not watched a lot of Driussi, almost none of him since he went to River, but I did watch this Club World Cup game the other day, which was against Urawa Red Diamonds, who I really liked watching them play and was hoping they would make it through, and they almost did it, but it looks like they're probably not going to now. But Driussi was playing as the striker for them, and I think a lot of people would see him on the lineup as the 9. It's like, oh, he's going to play false 9, but in this game, again, I don't know about other games, but in this game, there was nothing false about it. He was playing 9 in a way that, like, it was really weird watching him play that position after having watched Brandon Vasquez play that position all year, because Brandon Vasquez is always moving, always making runs, dropping in and connecting play. For River, Driussi did none of that. He was mostly just standing there. And then it seemed to me his role was let the other really good players get it in and around the box. And that's when you make your move. That's when you expend your energy. And that's when you find the end of a pass or a loose ball or whatever. And you try to jump on the ball and score a goal. And he did that in this game. Like a kind of a weird ball up in the air. He jumps up and heads it over the keeper and it goes in. And so I don't think they ever really used him in this role in Austin, but I don't think even if they tried or if they did, it would have looked the same at all, because we didn't have anybody who could get it into the box for him. And this River team is stacked. They're really, really good. And so it's fine to let the other guys do their thing, get it into the final third, and then you engage Driussi. But on those Austin teams, when they were trying to use him in that way, who did we have that was going to do that? And so I feel like Driussi was either told to go find the game and get involved, or felt compelled to do it because nothing else was happening. And he would drift very far from that position. And then when we did get it forward, nobody was there because he was the one who dropped back and progressed the ball. So Yeah, we never played him that way, but yeah, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
So you can't throw the long pass to yourself. I guess this was just what we were asking.
Yeah,
Asking to
exactly.
do in Austin. Yeah. Trevor Allison, can y'all update your Clone Wars 11 choices now that we've seen the new players play quite a bit?
Yeah, who was your
can.
pick last time we did this?
I was going to say, dude, I don't remember what my pick was last time. I'm going to guess it was John Gallagher.
I think I was shifted to Team Biru
Okay.
for this one, and I still think he's in my top 2. I might put Mikael Dessler as number 1, but I could be convinced either of those guys is the best pick.
No, I knew as soon as I read this question that this is one of these things that we were going to agree on. Because I would definitely put Mikael Dessler as my number 1. Just the ability to go up and back and make a difference, like in all phases of the game in a way that's more skilled than John does. And like, I love Biru, but he has a little bit of the Julio, like, ball watching ability sometimes. Like, I don't feel like you ever catch Mikael Dessler unaware.
Yeah, these would be very different teams.
They would be.
Mikael Dessler's team would be very defensively solid. Everyone's doing the right thing. I think they might have trouble scoring because he's not, like, Dessler's not super lethal in the final third, either with his passing or his shooting. Beer's team would be 11 guys in the box. The keeper's coming up trying to score goals. And for that reason, they're probably going to give up a bunch of goals too. But yeah, for that reason, I could say, like, maybe Beer is a better option because they will probably score goals where Dessler won't. But I don't think Dessler is going to give up any goals probably.
All right, let's go with this Rob Shelton one. This is an on-field one, less of a philosophical exercise. So he says, I noticed that Brad was the captain on the Red Bulls game instead of BHI or Ilie. Thought I saw him wearing the captain's armband in a picture from the Rapids game. Has there been a discussion on the change? I'm not arguing against the decision, just curious why.
Yeah, so I think he was the captain in Colorado, if my memory serves. But I would guess it's because Ilie hasn't been starting several of these games. And then Heinz Eich stepped away and was gone for personal reasons for that game and then came back. Like, I could see that impacting that. Or, like, if you're going to miss a game as the captain, I could see them it maybe being a weird optics thing for them to stick the band right back on your arm. Again, people who listen to the show know that I don't care who the captain is. I think it's fine to move it around and have it be several different people. I think that's probably good, like, to have guys feel rewarded for their leadership. But I would guess it's because of BHI and Ilie missing time for various reasons, and Stuver's always there, so you can depend on him to be there.
Well, one of the reasons that I argued against Stuver being the captain going into the season was we had this thing from MLS about how the captain was really, really, really going to be the only person who, like, talked to the ref, and that wouldn't be appropriate for a keeper when field players were going to be around the play. But, like, that doesn't seem to actually have, like, come to fruition. So, like, yeah, man, have Stuver be the captain every match if you want to.
Yeah.
To your point, I don't think it really matters. To my point, like, everybody argues with the ref every time there's a call. It's like, apparently you're not enforcing this thing that we thought was going to be a thing.
Yeah, Bira talks to the refs more than he talks to his own mother, probably. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, your Ilie thing leads into this next one from Elliot Wynn. Do we think we keep Ilie beyond his 1-year contract?
That's a good question. I mean, the last handful of games, I think Ilie has not looked great. And he's not started some of them, so you could say it's a rhythm thing or a rust thing. But if he continues his downturn in form and, say, Sabovic continues playing on a decent level, I could see them not picking up that option year. Another factor is looking at Nico Dubersarski. If he can show some development over this year, then you say Ilie, okay, he's not the starter. And then we have a decent backup option as that true 6 in Dubersarski on the bench. We don't really need Ilie now. So I don't think it's really set in stone now, but given how the last little stretch of games has gone, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't pick up his option.
Yeah. Do we know how much he's making too? Like I feel like
No, we've still not gotten
Yeah.
the roster the salary release from MLSPA, which it's very late. We usually get it in the spring, and so I don't know if this is part of the negotiations with the Club World Cup where they're holding that back for some strategic purpose, but they've not released anything, so we don't know how much quite a few of our players are making right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking if he's making a lot, then that becomes an easier decision to say no, given the other options. And I would have to imagine he is, just given his pedigree and track record and what he was making last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what he's made in past years of his career, which is quite a lot, but I would imagine it's more than some of these other 1+1 guys we picked up. All right, we have another one from Elliot Wynn. He says, if all of our current players' contracts ended tomorrow, pick 3 players that you'd have removed from the senior roster. And then he makes a note that we're including Owen Wolff in this, even though he's not in the senior roster. And why you would remove them. So every player is a free agent. Who are the ones that you're absolutely, like the 3 players you're absolutely not picking up or not trying to renegotiate a new contract with? Do you have any picks here, Jeremiah?
I mean, the good thing is that Roto's got rid of most of the really bad ones. We kind of talked about what one of mine might be. Like, if everybody else develops, I feel like Ilie, who I was very much an advocate for, might be one of mine to let go of.
I mean, do we include Uzuni?
I was just going to say.
If we're walking free from his contract, like that one seems, even if he shows some signs of life throughout the rest of the year, is it, I mean, his salary is not that high. So like, I don't know, like you've already paid the transfer fee. And if he leaves, you're not getting any return on that. So maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe you try to keep him and sell him again or try to get something out of him. I don't know. I would say just like from this is not a big salary hit. Well, he's not. I was going to say Jimmy Farkerloon, but he's not senior roster, so he doesn't count. I would say Steph Cleveland.
Okay.
Just because I think for the money in senior roster spot, you could probably like I don't know if there's a reason to spend a senior roster spot on a backup goalkeeper. You know?
That's very fair. And the other one I would have, like, we don't know where he's signed to. He's maybe not even a senior. I think it's Diego Rubio. Declining returns.
He's actually supplemental
now,
so he's
okay.
not in play.
Well, so Austin doesn't have a lot of terrible contracts. Why are we not like scoring more goals? I guess that's my question now.
Yeah, I think this is the pieces don't all fit together necessarily, which is the on-field stuff. But if you look at the contracts, there's not many bad ones left, and a lot of our good players are fairly cheap right now. So we've been critical of Roto on one hand recently, but on the other hand, it's like we do have to give him credit for getting rid of bad contracts and bringing in some pretty cheap contracts with some pretty high-quality players. So yeah, that's good news that there's not any. Like, there's not 3 obvious answers of like this guy, this guy, this guy.
So I think we agreed probably on one guy, which is Uzuni, which leads us to Nicole Blair question.
Did we say Julio Cascante?
We didn't, but in my world where we get to sign players for whatever we want to, negotiate a deal for a handsome boy who's a leader on the field.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm ready for that contract to be gone, not necessarily the man, if that makes sense.
I agree. So this next one is Nicole Blair, who asks about, is there another way to get something out of Uzuni besides using him in a dual striker system or using him as a backup to Brandon? So basically, like, can you get value out of him on the wing? I think is the question.
Yeah, we don't know.
To you on this one.
We haven't really tried it yet. I think he's nominally played as the left wing a couple of times, but he didn't really play left wing. He was still getting inside and trying to play as a striker, more or less. So I don't know. That's something I'm looking forward to finding out, and hopefully we get to find out by seeing him actually play as a left wing. But we've not really seen it yet, so who knows? Next one is from Andrew McGalliard. They ask, Sebastian Berhalter has quietly had a great season and has been rewarded with a national team call-up for the Gold Cup and deserves to be an MLS All-Star, while Danny Pereira's development has seemingly stagnated, and we're still left waiting for him to take that next step in year 5. Has Berhalter surpassed Danny as the better MLS player? Jeremiah, what do you think?
I think it has to be yes, just based upon the way it's set up. Is Danny's ceiling higher than Sebastian Berhalter's ceiling? I think it is. I'm not sure it is. But as far as the realization of their potential and their contributions on the field, and when you look at like the role he plays in his team, which is more successful than Austin, I think you have to, at this point in time, say Berhalter is a better prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I would push back a little bit to say that Danny Pereira's development has stagnated. I think it has slowed down, and that slope is not as steep as we maybe once thought it was. But I think he has shown some signs of development this year and some signs of growth, which is a positive. But I think it's undeniable that Berhalter is a better player this year in Major League Soccer. But Berhalter hasn't always been that. He really kind of kicked on last year. He was in Austin when he was 19, I think, on loan. He went back to Columbus. Columbus sold, they traded him to Vancouver for I think like $50,000 in GAM with a potential extra $50,000. So they clearly didn't see him as a high value player. His first couple of years in Vancouver, he really didn't do much, and then last year he turned it on. So, I guess all that to say that development is not linear. That every player is not going to just be a flat line slope, and it happens at different steepnesses. Like players will have steps forward, steps back. It is getting a little bit late now for Danny. He's 25 years old. Berhalter is only 24, though. I think he's just about a year younger than Danny. And so it is still possible for him to take some steps to become a better player. But with just the recency bias in mind, Berhalter is definitely the better player now, and if he continues to improve, could end up being having a higher ceiling as well. But again, it's not linear. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Let's go Kern Kelly one now. It's about Svatak, his distribution. I feel like Svatak is pegged as a guy who's really good at defending, probably not as good moving the ball forward in attack. Especially when you compare him to Julio, who now that Brendan Heinzike seems to be set on being one half of the center back combo, you have to compare these two. But Kern thinks that he's been underrated and maybe might be our most important center back this season.
I would agree with that. And talking about his distribution, I've said this on the show a couple of times, but it is not pretty when Svatak has the ball at his feet. It is not smooth. It is not fluid. But if you look at what he does and kind of the results of when he has the ball, Curran mentions the balls over the top to Uzuni in his question. He has played some of those long balls. I don't think the long ball is necessarily his best trait. And I don't think Svatak is necessarily an amazing distribution center back, but he is much more competent at it than I imagined he was going to be. And I think for that reason, alongside his kind of step forward on just the sheer defensive duties, I think he's absolutely our most important center back right now. If we're just taking the last 5 games, Heinzike has looked a little shaky at times, and Svatak has not. He's looked really solid. His work with the ball at his feet, again, he's not a magician back there, but he receives fairly cleanly. He passes the ball pretty quickly. He'll use some deceptive little movements to buy himself a couple of extra seconds or to open up a little bit more of a gap for himself to play a ball through. He's doing what you want, a defensive-minded center back. He's doing better than you would maybe expect him to do. And so, yeah, I think he's been our most important defender, or at least the center back in the last handful of games.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see him develop. I'm super excited to see him acclimate to this game in this country and become the best player he could be. So let's.
I think also he's become more vocal out on the field.
Yeah.
I think him and Sabovich, you see them. I think in the kind of the post game hype video highlight reel, you see Sabovich in the team circle giving kind of a little pep talk before the game. You see Svatok talking and kind of lining up the offside line and stuff like that. So we talked about these guys who have been captains on other teams, maybe not quite being ready to be leaders on this team just because they're new and they're kind of quiet guys. They're not being quiet anymore. They look like they're part of the team. They look comfortable. They're being vocal. I really like to see that from these guys.
And we've seen him shirtless now too, as of last week.
It's a sign of him opening up.
Yeah, exactly. And becoming one of the boys. I like this team question from Kevin Trahan, which is, what are the top 3 Austin FC games you've seen in person? His are Pumas 2024, 4-3 versus San Jose, and the RSL shootout. So, like, I'll ask you your top 3. I have a top 2. No, I have a top 3 now. But if you want me to go first, I can go.
Yeah, go first, and I'll see if I have different ones than you.
Okay. So this is in person. So I would say number 1, LAFC August 2022. That win was amazing. Wait, this is a tie. I have a tie for the top 3. I can't pick one or the other. It was that one. It was Den Verde away. So I feel like that was one you were not at. So like that one, at least we will differ. Yeah, and then the shootout win, because it happened. I mean, it was great, and also like there's that great photo of Brad like with a little like point of light, which is like directly in front of our seat. So to see the whole team like running into our end to see that win made that one of the top 3.
Yeah, the San Jose one was electric. Like that one was special. I will say, I think I have to agree and put the Pumas one on my list as well, because that was after the Monterrey game, right?
Yeah.
And so we'd already seen the Monterrey game and like, okay, it's a fluke, but Pumas is going to destroy us. And then we come in and we frustrate the crap out of them too and pull out that one. Like I was just like giggling at the end of that game. Just the fact that it happened and that we were there to see it, like that one was great. The RSL one, I mean, the end was super exciting and a really cool moment to be there for, but we did not play very well that game. And so a lot of that game was pretty frustrating. I would say the Dallas game in that playoff series where we just thumped them. We just ran them off the field. Like that one was fun the whole time because I was almost never worried in that one even.
Those are good choices too. And like he said, it was up to it's up to everybody's own interpretation about what that might mean. Let's go, because I noticed you have a lot of notes on this. Let's go to Mateo Clark's question here, which is, I've noticed at kickoff, either to start the first half or second half, common tactic is to pass back to the keeper for a long ball in the opponent's third. It's not unique to Austin FC. Where does it come from? Talk about Stuver's distribution. And Mateo kind of recognizes the changes this year between from past seasons.
Let's maybe break this. Mateo has 3 questions, so let's break it up into the 3 spots because I think they're all really good questions. So let's start with that first one, the pass back to the keeper for a long ball into the opponent's final third from the kickoff. So I've not had anybody tell me this or like read or heard this anywhere, but my best guess is that it's just a unique phase of the game where you can kind of engineer a certain level of field position because the defensive team is stuck behind the midway line. So you know where they are. And then by booting it up the field, it's very low risk, high reward where you can get numbers high. And best case scenario is you win the ball and you're in their final third without really having to build it up or do anything to get there. But even if you don't win that ball, then you have a scenario where you're pressing the opponent deep in their half with a lot of men in that area. Or it goes out of bounds and then you're pressing them on a deep throw in or something like that. Those are decent positions to be in. And if like that's the fail state essentially. Like you don't lose anything by doing it. And then the reason you kick it back to the keeper, it just gives players time to get high up the field because they're also stuck at the midway line. So drop it to Brad. All the other players will push forward and try to get as high as they can, or at least to the height that they know Brad can kick it to. And you'll see Brad, like if nobody comes up and presses him, it's pretty common for a player on the other team to just sprint towards the goalkeeper and put pressure on him. But if nobody does that, he'll just keep going and kick it from as high up the field as he can. And so that's why you drop it back to the keeper, is just to buy some time. And so, I think that's the reason. Is there anything else you can think of, or any holes in my logic there?
I feel like you're probably pretty good. This is like the my pure soccer fan hatred of the short corner, and your like tactical math side of that, where it's like, but actually it's better, but really it's more effective. So I feel like somebody's figured out that's more effective. So like,
I would be curious if like a team that's super dedicated to possession, you'll see Wilfred Nancy teams do it in MLS, or just like the best possession teams in the world will drop the ball back sometimes and invite the defensive team to come to them. And so I think if there were an advantage to be gained there, that people would try this sometimes, drop it to the keeper, wait for the defense to stretch themselves out, and then try to play through them there, because they're as compact as they're ever going to be probably in that moment at kickoff. And so try to draw them out, but nobody ever does that. And so it seems that there's probably some really smart people who are saying, yeah, booting it long is probably the best thing to do here.
yeah. And from someone who's observed Brad Stuver with the ball at his feet, like nobody's a keeper because they're good. They're like, their main strength is distributing the ball, right? Or dribbling around dudes. Don't out dribble strikers. That never works out.
Okay, let's go on to Mateo's second question,
which is basically, it's basically like last year Brad seemed to like just like fire the ball out to try to start a counterattack. Sometimes it happens this year, sometimes it doesn't. Why do we think that's the case?
Yeah, and he's talking about after Stuver makes a save, like catches a corner. It's usually off of set pieces, corners. If he collects the ball in that moment, he'll often try to launch one of those guys down the field. And he seemed like he was trying it every time last year. And I think that they are still looking for that. They're just not pulling the trigger as often. You will see when Brad collects the ball in those moments, he gets up, he starts charging forward, and he looks up, and oftentimes he'll raise his hand to tell the forward, like, hey, it's not on, stop running. But I do think they are looking for it. And the reason they're not pulling the trigger as often, it could be strategic. Like maybe they noticed they were tiring out the forwards, like Buka or whoever it was. They're getting too tired and then weren't very useful in attacking phases. So maybe saying, okay, let's not do that as often. But I imagine also, like, now that opponents have seen it so many times, they know it's coming and kind of have a plan to mark those runners. And so it's just not on as often anymore.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, let's go to the sort of the build up. You know, I feel like under Josh Wolff, the build up part of play, everybody had a strong opinion about like coach's belief in it, which may or may not be based in reality, but maybe like under Nico, like how have you seen, right? Like even when we talked to Brad under Josh Wolff, Brad's like, the keeper is the first line of attack in the buildup of play. But like, how have we seen this change under Nico Estevez?
Yeah, they are still trying to play out from the back at times, but overall they have been significantly more direct than they were under Wolff. And so even when they are playing out of the back, like you'll say on a goal kick, Stuver will kind of survey what the defense is doing and decide, okay, we're going to play short or we're going to push everybody high. And they're doing that more often. They are pushing everybody high and just kicking it long more often. But when they do play it out of the back, they're much braver with playing those vertical balls in between lines or playing it over the top. And I think there's moments when it's coming directly from the back line, like playing those balls over the top, that it still doesn't look great and it doesn't come off. But a development that I've seen this season is what happens when they do break a line during build-up, which is that, okay, they play that ball into Vasquez's feet and he plays a ball wide, or they play it to Owen and he turns and dribbles past two guys. In that moment, they will turn and drive and try to put a team under pressure, where often under Wolff, they would maybe break that first line and say like, okay, guys, we got a little bit further up the field. Let's reset and then pass the ball in a horseshoe again. And so it was much more cautious and focused on keeping the ball above all else. Whereas under Nico, it does seem like, okay, we got past this first line. We have an advantage. Let's try to use it now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's one where did not wear my wish we would score more goals hat tonight, but it feels like that's one of the ways that you can is just be not so rigorous in the structure and sort of like adherent to the structure, and regardless of game state, and just like take these little chances that maybe will lead to nothing, and honestly maybe it will lead to like negative results. Like Austin FC can often screw this like pattern of play up too, and put themselves in bad situations. But it's like being a little bit more bold seems to be a way that maybe will pay off for this team down the road.
Jeremiah, should we take a quick break before we finish up these questions?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right, hang tight. We'll be right back with more listener questions, and we'll also get into Seattle Sounders preview and one piece of Austin FC news, ?
Maybe? Yeah.
Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. Our friends at Sage Wilson Realty are giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match. Fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
Our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities and is proud to support Moon Tower Soccer and Austin FC's march to the playoffs. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We're going to jump right back into listener questions. This one is from Martin Peterson. He says, if Danny, Taylor, and Dessler were available to rotate in during May, do you think that shifts our results? Or were our problems more tactics-based? Jeremiah, what do you think about this one?
Can I answer yes to both these things? Like, I feel like we have a slightly different result, probably better result. Just from the fact that those are like talented guys that we didn't have available. Like, more talented players on the field help. And I think some of the problems in May were still related to Nico tinkering with the tactics. And I think that some of the things that we've seen with better results from a couple matches in this month are sort of settling on what this team is and finding an identity.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, Dessler, just from a level of sheer quality, like he's just very, very good. But also, we just didn't have options, and Gallagher had to play every minute of every game during that month, and that's not ideal. Just from any player perspective, like you don't want to have to play a guy just because he's the only person there. But then if you look in the midfield, Nico Dobrosarski, who's not been all that good, he's still very young. I'm not giving up on him, but he's not been great. He played several hundred minutes during May because he had to. We didn't have anybody else. And having Danny there, quality aside, just replacement level, he would have helped being there. And then add in that he is, on his day, one of our better players. Like, that absolutely helps. Same with Taylor. Like, we haven't seen a ton of him, but I've seen enough of him here and in Miami to know that he is a good MLS player. He absolutely would have helped this team. So if you add in all three of them, I think there are some tactical things. We're just trying to shoehorn Uzuni and Vasquez in the lineup, was kind of throwing things off. But if you have the option of Taylor, you can pull the trigger, make some changes, do something. Like, I absolutely think, I'm not saying we're going to win every game in May, but I think we'd get more points than we did for sure.
Let's go to this Dylan Biles one too. And I'm going to ask for one of these. Well, I'm actually going to have an answer. The question is, what are the top few sliding doors moments for this season that if something had gone right would completely change the narrative? And I'm going to go with any of the high XG chances that Mirto Uzuni had, if one or two of them had gone in the net, I feel like that would have completely changed the trajectory of him and the trajectory of the attack, because I feel like so much of what's going on with him is mental. And that's common with attacking players. Like, this is the guy that scored 50 goals in 3 years in Spain, like, and he has not turned out. I just feel like some of those chances that he had either have chances or really good chances. Like, if they had gotten in the back of the net, that would have made it a different season for Austin FC.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. Like a well-timed one as well, like early, where maybe it sets him on a confident path as opposed to the one that he's on now. I think that's a good shout. I mean, I tend to think of sliding doors moments as ones where, like, okay, your life is completely different based on whether or not you go through or not. And I don't think there's that many. I think that, like, yours is the best shout. I mean, like, Vasquez has had so many chances that I think if you change one of them, it probably doesn't change the rest of the season at this point, because we've seen him have so many chances and he scored a few now, and it's still kind of the same. I would say, tell me if this doesn't count, but signing Mirto Uzuni and maybe going after a different profile of player instead that maybe fits the roster's needs a little bit more.
I think that one's fair. I was going to go back to, like, not signing Jesse Zardes, you know, in the past, that created a situation where Austin had to be here now. Maybe have been one where they had to both buy him out and, like, find guys to fill that spot.
Yeah.
Maybe was another option.
Okay, now we're going into random grab bag territory. This one is from Keith Simon. It says, if Austin FC was a track and field team, which players would enter the following events? 10K, mile, 400 meter, 100 hurdle, steeplechase, long jump, javelin, shot put. Let's just, Jeremiah, I don't know that we necessarily need to assign all of these, but let's just pick and choose any obvious ones that you want to throw out there. What are the obvious fits here?
I was just going to say, I feel like John Gallagher would be the best choice for almost all of these events, because he can run a long time in a lot of ways.
I feel like you put John maybe fits like the pain events, which are like the 400 and the 800. Just like, I'm tougher than you, and so I'm going to win here.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, so the shot put is one that's interesting because it's just like the strongest guy. And is that a Zuni thing, maybe?
I mean, like, Olympic level shot putters are all big guys. So, I mean, like, in past history, I think Johan Romagna is the most obvious shot putter. But in this team, I think it's Svatak. Like, Uzuni, I'm sure he could throw it. He's like got the proportions for it. But if you look at the Olympic level, they're all much larger than him.
Did you have one, like, what other events were you thinking about when you
Bukhari in the 100?
Totally.
Where's Dessler going here? He's built a little bit like a quarter miler, but maybe like 400 hurdles or something like that.
I think the hurdles would be good for him, where it's like not just speed, but speed plus some amount of skill.
He's probably not like svelte enough to be doing high jump or pole vault or something like that, but he could probably still do the running stuff. Who's our best distance guy?
So it'd be somebody that's like, doesn't have the most top line speed, but can run for the longest time, is effectively what you want out of a distance guy. Dude, Owen Wolff. It has to be.
He's maybe like a little too muscular to be like your traditional, but he'd probably still be pretty good at it. If we're talking about just like best athletes on the team, we have to assign CJ Fodre to something. Is he your high jumper? Maybe.
Javelin is a choice. I feel like that's like I feel like javelin's an athletic.
I don't even know what javelin guys look like.
I don't know.
Okay. Hopefully we did a good enough job there, Keith. Next one is from James.
No, I get to ask this one.
Okay, sorry.
No, it would be dumb for you to ask this one, which is basically, Landon, what's going on with your hair? How's it growing out?
Yeah, so it is faded to a light turquoise color now, And Jane, last time I saw her, she had some fresh color in her hair and was telling me about how like various colors fade. And she was right that this bright green has faded to more of like a turquoise blue. The rest of the question was like, what's the end game? Are you gonna buzz it all off, or like what's your exit strategy here? And I mean, if the color stays, I really like the color now. I know some people are upset that it's not as verde as it once was. But if I'm being honest, the color that I have to wear on my head, I prefer this color than the super bright verde that it was. So as long as it stays this nice color, I'm just going to go with it and wear it until it grows out and I get a normal haircuts. But if it turns like kind of a nasty mossy blonde at some point, I might either have to recolor it or go the drastic haircut route and try to cut it all out. But the nieces asked why I had green hair. And I said, well, partially because I kind of wanted to, but mostly because some people paid me a lot of money to. And they're like, what? Really? It's like, yeah. Yeah.
You know what? It's a universal thing that kids appreciate. They're like, yes, I support your decision based upon that, if nothing else.
All right. Next one is from Trevor Allison. Trevor says, why does everyone hate tucking in their shirts and players who tuck their shirts in? It's expected in most other team sports, except for those with lots of pads. Any soccer league I played in with a jersey required them to be tucked in, and I still do whenever I play a sport on an organized team. Jeremiah, do you have a strong opinion on the tuck?
Man, the pandemic, there were a lot of terrible things that happened. There were some good things that happened. And one of the good things is we don't have to tuck our shirts in anymore. The fact that I can go to work and not tuck my shirt in is one of my greatest joys in life. So that would be my answer to this question.
I'm of, I guess age probably has something to do with it, but also where I grew up has a lot to do with it, where like my basketball teams, track teams, whatever sport, if you could tuck the jersey or shirt in, you were tucking it in, like you were forced to. And so I honestly don't mind a tuck. My problem in modern soccer, modern MLS specifically, is that these uniforms were designed to be untucked, especially this year where you have kind of that swoop thing that continues from the jersey onto the shorts. I think Ilie tucked his shirt in one of these recent games, and it just looked really weird because the uniform is not meant to be tucked in, and so it looks strange. So if the uniforms were different and it looked more natural, I would be all for it. But it really looks strange in these current kits.
Well, and Ricky Puig does it, and Ricky Puig is generally annoying. And so, like, whatever he does, we're probably going to have a problem with.
Hard to support anything he does.
Yeah. Let's go to this Alex Mod question, which I love because you actually did research on, like, a random dumb question.
I'm trying to get better, Jeremiah.
Okay. So if Brandon Vasquez is Superman and Beeru is now Spider-Man, what other players are moonlighting as superheroes? If you want to stretch the question, give each starter a superhero identity. So you have a superhero answer for players.
Yeah, I don't think we can do every starter. If you have answers, by all means, go for it. I'm going to be honest. I don't watch many superhero movies. I've not read any comics, and so I don't know a lot about superheroes. So maybe, I'm guessing, Jeremiah, you've at least seen some Marvel movies, I know. So you might have better answers. But here's what I got. Svatak is Hulk because big, angry.
Smash.
Bukhari is Flash because go fast. Danny is Loki because he's a little stinker. How'd I do there?
You did great. And honestly, Danny is Loki was my favorite of the possible answers that you had. Because that was like the one that I was like, oh yeah, totally. That's what he is. He's like an agent of chaos and kind of a god at the same time. So, man, I think you nailed it. I don't have a lot to add to that.
Do you have any others or better answers?
No, I think you crushed it.
Sorry, Alex, for not knowing more about superheroes. Okay, are we ready to get into this last segment, Jeremiah?
I can't wait. So this last segment is called Robert Miller, and we're just going to take we're gonna go fast because there's a bunch of them.
Robert
We're just gonna
always
take
sends in a
turns
bunch of
asking-
questions and lets us pick the ones we want. But since this is a question, like Oops All Questions episode, we're just gonna lightning round through all of Robert's questions.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do the first one. We'll just alternate questions. Okay.
Okay,
So like,
deal.
I'll ask you, answer. Okay. Even though neither of them had a lot of goals, do you think it's fair to or unfair to say that Bukhari has been a bust like Rigoni?
Bukhari is not a bust. I could say he's been disappointing at times, but the last little stretch, he's been really, really good, and he's shown more in single games than Rigoni did in his entire career. 2, do you think it's premature to call Uzuni a bust, considering it took him 15 minutes to get used to his prior team?
15 games, not 15 minutes, but
Oh, sorry.
no, I feel like Adrian found the most kind description of Uzuni's performance in the past to come up with this. And I think it is fair at this point to call him a bust unless things change dramatically.
Fair enough.
All right, 3. What's your favorite seat at Q2? And you cannot pick your own seat.
I was gonna say it's my seat.
No. Okay. If you couldn't have your seat, where would you sit?
In the like owners boxes directly across from my seats.
Those are great seats, and you get all you can eat food.
Yeah.
in those seats.
That would be it.
Okay.
But I don't want to sit in the lower bowl anymore. I've gotten used to a certain vantage point, and I can't do any other place now. 4, who is the best center back outside of BHI? We kind of answered this one earlier, Jeremiah.
Yeah, Svatak. All right, 5. What do you think of the ledge making all THC products illegal? Which
Well, we've
actually got
gotten news
vetoed
since then.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vetoed. So it's going to go back to special session, but I don't know how political we want to get. I think it's ironic to see the party of small government to be overreaching in certain ways, and that's all I'll say. 6, do y'all think, this is dangerous territory with Jeremiah Bentley. Do y'all think Tito's is overrated? If so, what's your go-to vodka? If not, have you had any other vodkas?
I feel like that question is very leading. Actually, I have switched from Tito's
Oh,
as my primary vodka.
does
yeah.
Tito Beverage know this?
Well, now he does. I mean, if he listens. First of all, as your work comp insurance provider, I appreciate you. I hope you keep your workers safe. As a consumer, I drink a lot of Dripping Springs these days, so I've made the switch.
All right, I do not drink vodka, so I have no opinion.
Okay, what do you think happens first? Austin gets a dedicated East-West freeway that's not out of town, like 290-45, or Austin FC wins MLS Cup or Supporter Shield.
Oh man, I'm not nearly as plugged into the kind of things that would give me the knowledge about the East-West freeway, but it doesn't matter because we're winning Supporter Shield and MLS Cup this year. Best team in the world, baby. Channeling Mike Crignola there again.
We should all channel Mike Crignola more often. I think it's fine.
Question 8. What was the worst Austin FC moment, and why was it Amro Tarek's goal versus Violette?
I want to argue against that and say
Okay.
that, like, the amount of time and effort and coordination that we made to go to San Antonio for that Open Cup match, and then we all snuck kazoos in, and we took buses, and then Austin FC didn't care, and we got our ass kicked. That is the worst moment in Austin FC history.
Yeah, if we're gonna narrow, that's like a whole game and a whole day. I don't know. There wasn't really like one moment that went wrong in San Antonio, right?
That's fair.
For
Yes.
that reason, I understand where you're coming from. For that reason, though, I would say it's hard to beat the Tarek goal because it was one of the best finishes you'll ever see, and it was into
It was
his
a
own
banger.
net.
Yeah. All right, number 9. Can we get more merch? I assume this means Moon Tower Soccer merch.
Yeah, can we get more merch? This is a complicated question. I've been trying to figure out a way to do this for a long time, and I think I've talked about my wife's job sometimes. She works in textiles in broad strokes. She's made me kind of a fabric snob, and I've become very particular about what things I'll wear and what kind of clothes I like to wear. and I've switched to wearing almost exclusively like really nice cotton t-shirts. In order to do that, we have to do like larger run screen printed things as opposed to some of these print on demand things, which are, we get a lower margin on them, which I'm fine with, but they're almost always worse t-shirts with worse printing on them. And I have a hard time doing that. So it'd be a lot of fun to do like smaller runs, but I like the way that I want to like put products out into the world, I would rather do it in a more like quality and sustainable way, which means ordering lots of one single item, which makes it harder to put out lots of different kinds of merch. So yes, we will do some kind of more merch in the near future, but it's probably not going to be like dozens of things a year. Number 10, I'm glad I'm asking this one because I don't know what this is. Have y'all read Dungeon Crawler Carl? If so, what do you think? Jeremiah, do you know what this is?
Crap. No, I don't know. I have no idea. I meant to go look this up. Yeah.
Well,
if you have read
the question is if we've read
us.
it. The answer is no.
All right, 11. I want to ask you this one, but I'm also going to have a take on this one. I don't know if you even know if you drink tequila, but the question is, what is the best tequila? Do you like celebrity tequila? I feel like we have a brand that has an answer to this. What do you think of Cristal tequila?
Yes, I do drink tequila. Of the clear liquors, I'll drink tequila and gin. And so I'm not like a tequila connoisseur. I don't know what the best one is, but the one that I keep in my house all the time is Espolón, because it is very affordable and makes a really nice margarita. And that's how I generally drink tequilas in a margarita. So I always have a bottle of Espolón, and then we'll often have a bottle of Del Maguey Vida, which is a mezcal, and I'll make drinks with that every once in a while as well. So I'm not going to say these are the best ones. If you're like sipping these things, there's much better things, much nicer things you can get. But if you're making cocktails with them, those two things are really nice to have in your bar cart.
Yeah. I think celebrity tequila is terrible, which I feel like we know. So like my tequilas are there's like a certain, I think it's just like low additive vein of tequila that I like a lot. So Lalo is my everyday tequila. Don Fulano is probably like a drop up from that. Fortaleza is up from that, but I just like, it's $200 a bottle now.
Oh wow!
So like we're not putting that in a margarita, but it's really good. And then my friend Emmy, her grandmother drinks Azul, like just Azul tequila, which is like $30 a bottle. But I have one of those just because like my friend's grandma has it for breakfast every day, and it feels like something that you should have around the house.
I've met Emmy, and I'm not surprised her grandma drinks tequila for breakfast every day. Okay, last question. At this point in the season, Wolff in or Wolff out? JK, but how do you grade Nico so far?
Man, this is a grade. This shows how much this season changes and how having a playoffs makes the whole season not matter. Like I would have been not Nico out, but like if things don't change Nico at the end of the season a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and now I'm like, yeah, man, it's fine. Like if things keep trending the way they're trending, we're gonna be okay. And I attribute to that being that he seems to have stopped tinkering a little bit and settled on an identity and like an 11 more or less. And it feels like he's found a way to make the guys, when they're healthy, be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, you mentioned the word identity, and that's a thing that I think he'd had some questions about that earlier on in the season, and I'd have to go back and see what he said. But there was a question more recently in the last few weeks, and I think this was in Spanish, so I'm not sure how widely it got reported, but the answer he gave tracked really well with what we've been seeing in recent games, which I thought was a really positive sign, that he's not saying like, okay, this is what they're doing, but actually what I really want to do is this other thing. And so we're going to be working towards that. It was like, no, what we're seeing on the field, the things that are working, that's what he said was our identity. I really liked that part. If you were going to give a grade, like a letter grade, pluses or minuses, what would you give Nico?
I will give Nico a B- to this point in time.
Yeah, I was gonna say C plus B minus is probably the most fair thing. Like C plus, see me after class. Maybe we can give some bonus points. But
That's totally fair.
I see potential in you, and maybe you can get it up to a B plus or an A minus by the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe if you do your best.
All right, that is all of the questions. Jeremiah, should we move on to? Oh, and thanks to all the Patreon members who sent those in. We have a couple more. Maybe we'll try to throw those in to next week's show, but we need to move on to the last little portion here, which is the aforementioned Austin FC news and then the Seattle Sounders preview. So, Jeremiah, let's start off with the news question mark.
So we saw this rumor that Chivas is interested in Brendan Vasquez. I mean, this is one of these like crazy offseason things, or not even offseason, like crazy midseason things where maybe they are. It seems very unlikely given what we know about Brendan Vasquez and his situation and the reason that he chose to come back to MLS, that he would suddenly, after half a season, agree to go back to Mexico and show a lot of interest in that. So this just seems like a silly season rumor.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that he said in interviews as he came back to MLS was just like they kind of had a rough go of it as far as like finding a living situation and having just some like really unfortunate things pop up that made it really difficult for them. And his wife apparently didn't like it very much there. It just seems weird that they would be trying to go back. Like maybe Chivas is interested. I don't think Vasquez or his family will be all that interested. And I don't think Austin's probably going to be listening unless the number is just astronomical right now, right? Like if they come in and say like, we're going to offer you enough that you make a profit off of Brandon Vasquez right now, then maybe they think about listening, but it just seems unbelievable at this point. And that is kind of all the Austin FC news, right? This is more of a swoon tower week. I'm not sure if they're going to put out a show this week or not, but lots of pictures of boys and babies and their families on the beach and on vacation, which good for them. I'm happy they're getting some relaxation time, come back refreshed and energized and ready to play some soccer. But yeah, we'll let Swoon Tower cover all that.
Yes, let's talk about, we do have a match this weekend, Austin FC versus Seattle in Seattle. There was a question about whether this match might happen because Seattle might have advanced in the Club World Cup. They lost all 3 matches.
They like,
I was gonna say, I read this.
Sorry, go ahead.
I read this weird article about how like even though they lost every match, maybe they convinced the world things were different. I don't know. What was your take on that?
I watched like half of 2 of those games. I really do think that watching it, anybody watching those games would be like, okay, this team is not bad. And at the same time, these other teams are better. And so, but that's the truth, right? Like MLS isn't bad, but Brazilian teams are better. French teams are better. Spanish teams are better. English teams are better. Like that's just true. And so they didn't go out and embarrass themselves. Anybody who watched these games would be like, good for you, Seattle. You went out there and gave them a fight, but it was a fair result and you lost. I think that all that's absolutely true. But yeah, I don't think they should be leaving this tournament in shame at all. Like I think they can be proud of it.
Yeah, and they got stuck in a really weird group, right? I mean, to your point, the teams they were playing against, they didn't get a team of part-time soccer players from Australia, or like some of the groups that the other teams got. So like bad on them for that. So, but I mean, ultimately it doesn't really matter that much. So they're right now 6th in the West. They're tied on points with Austin because they have a plus minus of 0. They're better on goal differential. They also have a game in hand. I mean, they're super deep and super talented still, even though some of the players have moved around, but they're also playing in a lot of competitions.
Yeah, they early in the season, they were picked as one of the teams that would finish top of the league towards the top of the Supporter Shield. And things didn't quite work out that way because they were playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup. They were just playing a lot of competitions. Also, they brought in Paul Arriola. He tore his ligament in his knee very early on and hasn't played the rest of the season. He's going to be out the rest of the season. Jordan Morris I think he's played 5 games in MLS this year. Jesus Ferreira has 1 goal, hasn't been that great for them so far. And so there's quite a bit of things that have just gone wrong for them that I think maybe they're starting to turn some stuff on. Jordan Morris did play some minutes in the Club World Cup, so he might be available against us, either starting or off the bench. I still think it's a good team. And you have here in the notes the Roldans. Alex Roldan playing mostly at right back. Christian Roldan has been playing in the middle of the park a lot more, which he's kind of played wherever they needed him to over the last few years, and has just sneakily been one of the best players in MLS, and certainly one of the most underrated players in MLS. And he's having a really good year. It's not always showing up in the numbers, but if you watch their games, he is so important to everything they do and is always dangerous.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, they have talent like up and down the field. So like he's been playing in the midfield and really good with Vargas, and like Rusnak scored I think 7 goals now. So like there's talent all over. The question is sort of how the pieces fit together and who's healthy. But like, what's your path to getting a result for Austin?
One other player note: they also brought in a guy named Ryan Kent, who I think they got him very late in the transfer window, but he is a Liverpool academy product. Played a lot in the championship, and then played for Rangers in Scotland for several years, and he's been really good. Like I think he has 3 assists in only a handful of games so far, but he's really talented as well. Yeah, I mean, Seattle is a tricky team because I don't think there's like one key way to beat them. They've always been pretty flexible under Brian Schmetzer. They'll kind of give to the game what is needed of it. So I don't think it's like, okay, we're going to do this thing and that will eliminate them. Like it doesn't, that kind of stuff doesn't work against the Sounders. You have to play a good overall game and not make mistakes. And that's the key to getting a result against the Sounders. And they're just so competent all the way across the field that they don't make a ton of mistakes. And so, yeah, I think just keeping your head, playing your game, not making mistakes is the way that Austin could get a result here. Hopefully, Seattle is a little bit tired, a little bit, disappointed, demoralized after this competition. They played their last game today on Monday, so they're going to have plenty of rest. I don't see them coming in super tired. I could see them maybe even coming in motivated after this competition to say like, okay, we couldn't beat Atletico Madrid or PSG. Fine. Let's go beat the crap out of Austin and show who we really are. Like I could see that happening for sure.
That seems terrible. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
And as far as personnel for Austin, we're going to have probably not Julio Cascante, but everyone else, those guys we talked about, how nice it would have been to have them in May. Most of them are going to be there. So I still want to see Robert Taylor start a game on the left wing. Do you think Uzuni is guaranteed to start, or do you think there's a chance Nico keeps him on the bench and plays someone that's a more natural fit for the way they've been playing the last few games?
I mean, I think what we've seen from Uzuni, what we've seen from the way that Nico's talked about players and talked about like when Bukhari struggled, like I can see a situation where Uzuni's not necessarily the guy. Like he seems committed to playing the best 11 for the situation and ignoring contracts. So, I mean, it'd be great to see him play.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a broken record. If Uzuni does start, I will be upset, maybe even furious if they come out and it's a 4-4-2 and Vasquez and Uzuni are both playing striker. Like I will.
They're just occupying the same
be
space.
happy about that. If Uzuni starts, fine. I get it. We know he's talented. We want to try to get something out of him. I understand why you might play him. If that happens, it better be on the left wing, and he better actually be playing left wing.
All right. I think that's about it for this week then. Let's go ahead and close it out.
All right. We'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet, wherever you are on the internet. Sign up for the Patreon. I'm going to be sending out those $5 ones this week. Then I'll probably check in once a month or so and try to send out any new ones. So it's not going to be super fast because I am our distribution center. But you can still sign up and send us questions next time we ask for them. But I think that's all. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to review the Seattle Sounders match and then preview the upcoming LAFC match and then cover whatever other Austin FC news happens. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing, see you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Because we love the Chup Boom Boom sauce.
Yeah.
If you don't make Brad an all-star, I will beat you up.
Perfect. You did it in one. You're a pro.